Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's already 1 o'clock. Thank you very much for joining this webinar session. My name is Muhammad Saad Masood, and I am actually unschooling parent. And I've been doing this unschooling with my two kids. One is 9.5 years old, and the other one is 6 years old. And so far, it is going really well. We started this journey 2 years back. So we wanted to share our experience with our community, and that's why I come up with this idea of sharing this with the community. And inshallah, I'll structure this in such a way that it would benefit you. But before that, I want to just lay down some rules so that you would have an understanding. Just to let you know, this is a recorded session, and inshallah, it will be going live on YouTube as well, so that many people can listen to our experiences. And because this is something what is open source, and we are not charging anything. This is for the betterment of the ummah, for the community. We want to spread message to everyone, and it is the betterment of the coming generation, our kids' generation. And we believe that if we can do something for the betterment of our kids, it needs to be spread across. When we were young parents, no one was there to guide us, and we learned something, and we wanted to spread this message to other parents as well, so that they would understand and learn from our experience as early as possible. And this is something what Project Unschooling is all about. And I want this session to be interactive. I want you to ask questions as well. If you have anything, you can at any time you can turn on your mic and you can speak. There is no problem at all. And I believe that you may have gone through the Project Unschooling website, and you have seen that where I have featured my two kids, and why I put those pictures, because I wanted it to be very real, because I don't want to use any AI generated pictures and all that, so that the experience would speak by itself. And this session, actually, I come up with an idea that we need to design something like Unschooling 101, like Fundamentals of Unschooling. And I'll explain later on that it will have series of webinar coming in, inshallah. And this particular session is more about an overview and about something related to us, and why us, why you need to listen to us. This is a very important question you may have in your minds. Like I've already mentioned, that we will be speaking from our experience, not from a book or anything. I come from a technology background. My wife comes from early childhood education background, and we have decided this. We came from the system, from the schooling system. So, as a parent, we actually have unschooled ourselves first. We actually transformed ourselves. You see the package in front of you in the shape of me. I was like 95 kg, and I transformed myself. I unschooled myself. I came to 70 kg of weight. Why I did that? Just to make sure that whether I am capable to do some transformation stuff. Before I ask my kids to do something, it would be great that if I would do something which is actually visible to them, because action speaks louder than words. So this is the methodology, I would say, that nowadays parents need to learn, and that is what is lacking. And being a parent, especially Desi parents, like coming from subcontinent region, we have a lot of fears about our children, that what's going to happen to our children's future and all those things. But we found out that if your present is better than your previous day, rest assured that your coming future or coming tomorrow will be great. So you don't need to worry about anything. So this is a mindset, I would say. And the purpose of this Project Unschooling is to mentor young parents, or those parents who are in the transformation phase, where they are thinking about homeschooling or unschooling or deschooling, whatever you call it. Because like you can see here, like the picture I have put on the very first page. I mean, here in the slide, you can see that. I mean, it's pretty obvious that when you go to school, everything is in a structure, right? But in real life, everything is like dispersed. It's a mixture of a lot of things. So what we want to do, we want to actually empower parents so that they would understand that life is like, I mean, it's a mixture of everything. It needs not to be structured like what we have in our schooling system. And I believe you already know that our curriculum and everything, every structure, right? It's made up because of the capitalism. Like they wanted slaves, corporate slaves. They want to. I would always think about this. Maybe you would reckon this as well, that a family or a children, lot of children, or a whole generation is like a jungle where you have different trees, and every tree is different from the other tree, But when it comes to the corporate sector, what they would do, they would always have, what do you call it, demands coming from a lot of people, like, okay, we need furniture, we need construction material, we need a lot of other things, right? So what they would do, they would put all the trees into that factory, and then it would be reshaped into certain things in a structured way. And it actually lost that purpose. The purpose of a jungle would be lost. And the same goes, and the beauty of the nature would be lost, And I believe that our children are also like those trees in the jungle, And what we are trying to do, we are actually sending them to schools where they're being formulated or reshaped into such thing which would not support them, which would not enable them to create the original impact and natural impact, the natural capability, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to our kids, that is lost because we actually forget about certain things. Maybe you can do a little thought experiment. Like, would you leave your child to any stranger for 6 hours every day in his house? Obviously, you would not do that. But have you ever thought that whenever you're sending your kids to school, what's going to happen? Do you know the parents of those kids who are actually surrounding inside the classroom, or who may become friends of your children, or another, which is a very deepening thought, I would say, that the teachers are actually employees. They did not go to the school to educate your kids. They are coming there to earn money, So this is also an aspect which actually needs to be understood. And sometimes I feel like, as a parent, when we are sending our kids to school, we are like short of temperament. We are actually relying on the system that, okay, it's all right, we will be sending them, they would become engineer, doctors, and we are actually losing a lot of things. We're not pondering upon the fact that their brains are very, very sensitive. And I mean, now you think about the solutions. What needs to be done? Like I've mentioned, that it needs to be unstructured. It would give them sense of adaptability. They would learn when they would be in an environment which is keep on changing, which is really, really important. So let's move forward, because here I just wanted to give you a little background. I'll not focus on the problem, but my focus is on the solution. And when it comes to the solution, I would say that let me give you the purpose. Like, what is the purpose? The purpose of this particular webinar is that in this particular webinar, I'll be touching about the introduction of Project Unschooling, that why we have created it. I have already explained it to you that this is something which is open source, parenting related platform where a lot of parents can come together. We will not be charging any money to anyone. Like you may have seen people charging $50 for 30 minutes call. I mean, this is all going on out there. But here we are actually trying to empower the parents so that our coming generation can create some impact. This is why the Project Unschooling is created. And through this platform, I will be actually going through the key principles, practices, and the basic mindset factors, which actually every parent need to learn, because parents need to understand that how to become a very good facilitator, So in the end of the day, we always talk about social justice, right? But we forget about our children's social justice. We never have thought about that. How would it be like when they would be of age, of consciousness, what they would be thinking? Oh, if it would have been great if I would have done this, if I would have done that, So and this is something which is really, really important, right? And this is something what would be the structure of upcoming webinars as well. Like in this particular webinar, I'll be focusing on the introduction only. I'll not go to the details, but as I have mentioned, maybe you would have seen on Project Unschooling website that there are like these sessions will be conducted every week, and inshallah every Saturday. So I will be taking it on, and though I'll be recording all this, but every time I'll come up with with something which would actually help you. So in this introduction session, I'll be talking about these 5 things. Like I'll let you know that what is unschooling. Because most of the parents, they would actually confuse between unschooling and homeschooling, but it's very different. We are not bringing schools into our house. It's fundamentally it is a very different approach. And then which is very, very important to understand that what is the history and the future of unschooling. And since we live in a community, and when we would do something which is against the status quo, the people will be asking a lot of questions, and then those questions will be coming from the preset mindset. And we'll be talking about those myths which have been created in our society when it comes to our children education. And in the last, I'll talk about the process of unschooling, what we learned so far. I mean, it's not coming from any book or anything. It is actually coming from our experience. So, I mean, like I mentioned, that unschooling is all about the children interest-led approach. It's not about parent-led approach. Parent will be a facilitator only. It is not the curriculum-led approach. It is like the first picture I've shown you. It is a mixture of everything. Why it is important? Maybe you would have calculated. I would give you a thought-provoking number that from grade 1 to grade 10, do you know that if your child is spending 8 hours in the school, excluding Saturday, Sundays, in these 10 years, he would be spending 20,000 hours for learning something which would enable them to get the certificates to get into a pre-university course, And research says that if you would do any skill for 10,000 hours, you will become the master of it. Now, as a parent, just facilitate your child. What I want to say here is that just facilitate your child that in the first 10,000 hours, like the 5 years, like the primary or the upper middle, I would say, let them explore their interests. What are their interests? Okay, now I'll relate it to the example of my kids. For example, my elder one is 9.5 years old. So our approach is to familiarize him with different extracurricular activities, which is, I believe, should be 90% focus for all the parents. And this is something which is really important. Schools, they actually concentrate only 10% on the extracurricular activities, and 90% focus goes on to the curriculum approach, the different subjects being taught. So now what we did, we actually have exposed him to football, to jiu-jitsu, to tennis, to swimming, to roller skates, and many other things, like mental maths, like mathematics, like English, literature, without any curricula, because the teacher task was, okay, teach him fiction, teach him poetry, teach him what is Urdu, Urdu, and then Arabic, Quran, and religion. So history. So the point is, this is something a little drop by drop. And where it is coming from? It is coming from our habits as a parent. We were having like every day 1 hour session, book reading session happening, which would have developed the habit of reading books before they go to bed, and this is something. So after some time, he said, Baba, I don't want to go for football because I like jiu-jitsu more. I want to go for Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I don't want to go for football. I said, okay, that's great. So he is developing an interest, right? So the point is that, again, coming back to the same point, that you would be focusing first 10,000 hours to explore the interest of your child. And that can only be possible if your child is with you. Your school will never, ever tell you that what are the interests of your kids, because they would be focusing on whatever curricula they have entitled to, and imagine the IQ level. What's going to happen the IQ level of your kids if he's in a structured approach? Just do an experiment. I believe you would be going to office every day, maybe, or working from home, or maybe working for one employee, or if you're a businessman going to the same shop every day. How would you feel? Like you are going to a thing every day. What would be your mental state? And you are a mature man or woman, now you imagine that what's going to happen to the kids who have very sensitive brain, and they are going every day to school, every day in the same classroom, every day the same teacher, same people, same books, same worksheets. It's not fair. It's against the social justice. It will not expose their original natural capabilities. So coming back to the point, so unschooling is all about exploration of the children's interest, which is actually driven by the children themselves. And the role of parent will always be a facilitator. And a facilitator, as you know, facilitator is not a teacher, because to draw a boundary between the parent and a teacher is really, really important. The facilitator and the teacher is very, very important, because you should not become a teacher. You should always be a parent who will be guiding. So the guidance will always come from the parent, and facilitator will always provide the tools. And this is something which is really important. I believe there are some parents who would be doing some homeschooling as well, and the question arises that okay, we are already doing the homeschooling, but the problem with homeschooling is that I would say it may be a transitory approach, right? Like if your child is already going to school and you want to unschool him, what are you going to do? You better try homeschooling first, right? Don't go directly to unschooling, because you are not prepared. So homeschooling is actually a transitory route. It cannot be a permanent state, because somehow sometimes you would become a teacher, sometimes you would become a parent, sometimes you would become a facilitator, and you would be impacting your children's interest in the end of the day, so that's why these are the four factors I have written here, like curriculum, learning environment, teacher, and assessment. You can see here, it's pretty obvious. And the ideal state, if you would see, is unschooling actually. And I'll explain it later on when we go to some advanced concepts that where we have a lot of myths about unschooling that people fear. And you know what? I believe you would agree with me that there are like 90% fears of any human being will never come true. And this is the most I think thought-provoking thing which every parent needs to understand. They need to contemplate and understand that these fears are only for time being. And that's why it's really important. And in order to understand that mindset, I believe that we need to go back to the history, and then we'll talk about the future. So first, I will talk about this guy. His name is John Holt, and this guy is the first one who has actually coined this term, unschooling. It's not a new concept though, but the term was actually coined by this guy. Now you imagine that if you, me, we are all living in like 300 years before, what will we be talking about our kids? Just do a thought experiment and think about this, and you would not be worried about their future anyway, because if you are a carpenter, you would always be, you would be very satisfied that it's okay. I already have a business. It's happening. If I'm a shopkeeper, for example, I'm a seller, I'm a clothes seller, you would not be worried, right? You would be thinking about your child in a very positive way. You don't need to send them to the school. So what happened in 17th, 18th century, this capitalism came, and then they started building up all these schools and everything because they need engineers, they need workforce. Actually, they needed that at the time, and they designed all this system. Otherwise, who's gonna work for it? Now, my question to you is, like, in the recent history, just give me an answer. Like, I mean, maybe you can speak as well. Like, how many people do you know in the curricula that who has designed the curriculum? I mean, do you think that they are like the top most or the most influential people of our society? Do you know them? I don't know anyone, right? In Pakistan, I'm from Pakistan. I do not know that this curriculum is designed by who. We do not know, but we know people who are dropouts, who has created an impact which has changed or transformed our lives. The inventors, like who has invented the plane, who has invented the internet, Facebook, Microsoft, like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all these guys. Like, I mean, imagine. So the point what I'm trying to make here is that that the education is something which is different what our schooling system has taught us. Actually, education should not be limited for 8 hours. It is a continuous process which should become a byproduct of our fun activities. And this is why it is important. I mean, this is important because the future we are heading towards. AI is disrupting everything. Now we have ChatGPT. The other day I actually have explored one notebook LLM. This is a mind-boggling tool by Google where you can actually go in. If you have like 6-7 papers, you just put it in there and you ask questions, and you have created your own language model, data model, and it would be your questions would be answered from that particular set of data which you have provided to the system. Right? You don't need any programmer or anything to create your own large language model or data model. You can actually straight away create whatever you want. So the point is that today our kids are learning Python, for example. Our kids are learning some tool, some Photoshop tool. You would not know that after 6 months there would be a tool which would be like disrupting this. It would be of no use. So what our kids should be learning? Our kids should be learning soft skills. And when it comes to soft skills, we always talk about communication skills, but the set has been upgraded already. I would recommend you to read a book, 21 Lessons for 21st Century. It's a mind-boggling book, and it has written a lot of things inside it. But the most important thing what I learned so far, and I give you an example as well, which is I believe you would also have experienced that with your kids, that how to unlearn and relearn. I give you an example. My 6 years old, he has never been to a school, even a single day. He has never been to a school, and he's the most unschooled child in our family, actually. Even in our community. So we went to Pakistan, and he has never seen buffaloes before. And when he saw buffalo from a distance, he imagined that these are elephants. And he said, "Oh, Mama, look, I saw an elephant." And then now see, he learned something from his own assumption, right? And then he is validating that assumption by talking to us. And then we said, no, Rafi, we laughed. And then we said, it's a buffalo, it's a buffalo, it's another animal. And then he relearned, he actually deleted that memory, the learning whatever he had before, right? And the same process actually goes on. So now what I'm trying to say here is that this unlearning and relearning is actually embedded in our nature, but it has been taken away when it comes to a structured curriculum where we are bound to read something which is written, to assess something which is actually coming from someone else's mind, and then from that basis it would be graded accordingly. And there is a lot of zoom happening actually in the end of the day to that particular kid, and his unlearning and relearning skill have been gone, and he will never do that. So the point is, being an unschooler parent, our task should be that we have to work on this skill to unlearn and relearn. And then it comes to the, what do you call it, teamwork. Now you imagine, like, AI is disrupting everything. If they are very good in unlearning and relearning, it would be very easy for them to relearn, and unlearn. It's amazing. And then again, teamwork, because in the end of the day, we are living in a community, right? And this is something which is really important. Like if you would talk about homeschooling kids to any schooler parent, they would always be talking about, oh, what is happening with the socialization skills of your kids. I mean, that's just a myth, and we'll be talking about that in the next slide. But the point is, what I'm trying to say here, that it will be resolved in the end of the day when it comes to the teamwork. And nowadays technology has provided us tools. And this is actually a guilt, which is like, oh, my son or daughter is having a lot of screen time. Why you have that guilt when the technology has changed? You've been brought up in the era of 3310, when there were no smartphones. So still we are living in the past. But what is happening that what is happening that in our case, like we are unable to comprehend the future for our kids. So it's really important that we need to broaden our vision, and a little empathy is needed, I would say. So this is also important. So if we develop that empathy, like what we always do in the corporate environment, we always go there and we talk about empathy when it comes to the customer relationship management. We need to behave like a customer to understand their problems. So being a parent, we also need to be a child, and I mean, that empathy needs to be there when it comes to your children. This is really important, and this is the crux of that mindset, I would say. Let's move forward because I want to spend some time with you as well, so that we can talk interactively as well. So I'll take maybe 5-10 minutes more, and then I'll finish these slides, and then we'll move forward and we will do some question answer session. See, the first thing is that the people will be asking, and this is something which is very important. I was reading some research papers about unschooling, myths, and I found out that the most questions which would be asked is coming from your own community, right? Oh, your children are always living at home. They were not going to school. What they're learning, like I mentioned, they would be learning life skills in the end of the day. Which, I mean, you imagine my kids, they wake up in the morning. They actually first thing they would do, they would make up their beds. So this is something where the discipline comes. So they would know this is their responsibility, what they have to do, and this is a life skill. This would stay with them for years and years. And this small aspect in the habit to making up your bed early morning, I mean, this will change your entire day actually in the end of the day. And then whatever other things, like they would be helping their mother to cook the breakfast. They would be learning cooking in the end of the day. I mean, this is something, swimming and cooking, I believe everyone should know, though I don't know swimming, but I'm trying on it. But the point what I'm trying to make here is that whatever things, as a parent, we consider that it would be ideal, we should start doing it today. And this is something which came from what I call Atomic Habit. There is a book. It's a very famous book. You must read that book. It will change your perspective. I tell you, I mean, it will change your life, your mindset, your everything. What we usually do, we actually form a goal, and then we start working on a system, and then in the end of the day, in the third step, we achieve that persona which has the accomplishment of that particular goal. Like, for example, I would say an example. I want to be a musician, for example. So what I would do, first say, okay, I'll plan it. I'll write a goal, and then I will do certain things. I'll hire a tutor. Then I'll become a musician. So the point is that why you are not becoming a musician on the very first day, you actually get into that persona on the very first day. And the same concept actually goes in Islam. Like what happens the very first day you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, you give shahada, for example, what happens? Your persona is changed. Everything is changed, right? You don't need to go to do wuzu, ghusl, or anything. The very first time you do shahada, you don't need to pray. So the point what I'm trying to say here is that you need to flip that system. And when when I say the flip the system, the 3-step system, like making a goal, creating a system, and getting that persona. Why not we create a persona, then work on the system, and then forget about the goals, because it is irrelevant now. In the end of the day, you're gonna achieve it. So I mean, this is something which is amazing. Yeah. So being an unschooler parent, yeah, we also need to work on this mindset, and you will see all the myths would be gone. Like, okay, unschooling can be done only by wealthy families. No, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Why you brought that soul in this world if you are actually giving it to somebody to nurture his abilities? Why? What is the point? Like, you are missing something then, and then the community. This is also very important. Like, I mean, when you actually create a community of unschooling parents, like your children would be doing a lot of projects, and it would be real-time projects. I've seen in Pakistan, there is a shop called Bacha Party something. I was actually looking at one of the his founder's interview, and he actually developed some event where the children are going, and they were having like lemonade stall being installed there, and they were like selling the lemonade there. It's amazing, and this thing can be done in the community wherever you are staying. I mean, you just need to Google. Nowadays we have a lot of communities on Instagram or Facebook or a lot of other social media platforms. I think we just need to go and explore it, and if the values and the mindset actually correlates with you, just go ahead, and then one thing which is very, very important, right? The diversity stuff. Sometimes being Muslim, I've seen people that they become so rigid, they don't want to interact with non-Muslims. This is also an aspect. I think if our kids, they would not be interacting with other people from the other faith, right? So they would not understand a lot of things. So what I'm trying to say here is that we need to create global leaders. Now, I mean, you can actually have a look on your bookshelf and see that the books in your bookshelf may have a lot of books coming from people from the West, and that book has been written in a room. I mean, and that guy was never been on a social media platform or anything, but the book rests on your shelf. Now you just do a thought experiment and imagine that in contemporary times, how many Muslim scholars or influencers have that ability where their books are being placed on the shelf of any non-Muslim people? None, or hardly you will find any. So the point is that we need to create global leaders. Now the Islamophobia is actually spreading across. People are talking about radical Islam and all that stupid things, but how that persona would be changed? That persona would be changed by the coming generation, inshallah. So this is the whole point. What I'm trying to say, that we need to actually come to that mindset, and then inshallah our children would create an impact. And then in the end, I'll talk about the process of unschooling. Like I mentioned, like I've actually understood it as a 4-phase process. That first of all, being a parent, I need to understand the philosophy of unschooling. This is really important, and all those things which I've mentioned before, it actually comes under this category. That first I need to be an unschooling parent. So if I would become an unschooling parent, I would become a very good facilitator in the end of the day. The next phase is actually linked with the output of the first phase, right? So the second step is to create a learning environment. Like, if I'm unschooled, my mindset is unschooled, I'm an unschooler parent, I can create a learning environment for my kids. How I'll do that? I'll actually talk about the communities around my house or my people, and I'll spread the message. I'll let other people know, look, I found out that this unschooling stuff is really good. Our kids would be happy. Being a parent, the first thing which every parent would be thinking about, the happiness. But when it comes to the education, we actually forget about the fun part of our kids, the happiness of our kids, and we actually try to force a lot of things as a parent. So we actually need to avoid that as an unschooling parent, and create that learning environment. Like, and how it would be done, it could be done by nurturing a culture of trust and respect and consent. This is really important, because you are living in a family. I remember I met Javed Ahmed Ghamdi once, and I asked him how I should brought up my kids, and he said that, he said a mind-boggling thing. He said, when you would be coming to your home from office, you need to understand you are in a quarantine zone. You need to be disciplined, because whatever you would do, it's like a string theory. The string will create a vibration which would impact your kids in the end of the day, because they would be thinking that you are the ideal person in the whole universe for them at a certain age. Yeah. So this is something which is really, really important, I would say. So once you would do that, you would create a trust with them. So this term, which I often come up with, trust deficit, I would say, that most of the time, especially in our DC parents, I mean, we always have trust deficit with our parents. So we need to actually reduce that trust deficit slowly and steadily, and we need to take it to surplus, trust surplus. It should be something trust surplus, where we should be trusting our kids, whatever they're doing, and we should not be challenging their aspects. I mean, though we know that sometimes they would be lying or something, but it's okay, it's fine. We can actually teach them from the other way, maybe, and in a more polite tone. And then the respect. I think we should develop a habit to seek advice from our kids, because we do not know sometimes. I mean, I give you an example. Like, you may have heard about these terms, like generations, like millennials. We are millennials, and after millennials, we have Gen Zs, and the children who were born after 2015 are called Gen Alpha. So now you can imagine that my children, they were born after 2015. They were like Gen Alpha. So it's not one generation gap. It's actually 2 generation gap. And we did an experiment. We have a community here, and we actually have scheduled some sessions where, which it is a mixed age group, community, where children from the age of 5 years old to 17 years old, they were participating, and they were talking about time management, sleep management, public speaking. And this 17-year-old guy, he was going for a training with a famous training organization. He actually have taken the training, and then he came and then he redesigned the training according to his own vision as a Gen Z for Gen Alpha and his peers. And the impact was amazing, And so now you imagine, like 8-year-old, 9-year-old, if they would be talking about sleep management, about strategy, about time management, I think it's a mind-boggling thing. The things have been changed, and these things millennials have learned when they came in the corporate sector, through corporate trainings. So this is something where we have an opportunity to create that learning environment, So we can actually come up with these type of ideas. And now again, see, this is something which is coming from a facilitator perspective. A parent become a facilitator, and he is doing all these things. I mean, community work. This is community work, and this is something where your children would develop a habit of become a volunteer to give away, because we need to teach our children that whatever we give back, it will come to the society. It will actually bounce back to you in a good faith in the end of the day, inshallah. So this is the third step. And the fourth step is, which is really important, like I've already mentioned, that the community, unschooling community. We need to engage with people. We need to create our own communities. Like if there is already a community of homeschooling, for example, it would be good that we spread this message. Let's try this. Why we are worried about O-levels, A-levels? Let the kids decide, because when they are like 13 years of age, they would be conscious of their future. They would know what they want to do. If they want to proceed for a medical degree, yes, they should go. But the point what I'm trying to make here is, through this particular webinar, that, see, primary and middle, I think these are the most important phases where kids should not go to school. They should always be unschooled. This is the exploration stage for them. Let them explore their interests, and based on their interests, let them go ahead. And as a facilitator, being a parent, we need to guide them. If they want to go to a school, directly go to, okay, British Council, I want to go for O-levels, A-levels. You don't need a school. You need a tuition center, actually, because most of the time, especially in our culture, we have schools and then the tuition center as well. Children are going to school, and the second time they are going to this is again, this should not be like that. So we really need to redesign their learning process. So this is the whole process of unschooling, what I actually have learned. I'm a wife, Aarfeen. And then here are the next steps. I would recommend you that you should be doing all these things. We have already created, yeah, you're pretty right. I mean, schools and tuition are torture. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. So what the next step is, I would recommend you to follow the social media, not our social media, but you can find other communities as well. I believe you would be doing that as well, but it needs to be interactive, So we have also created this platform, and I've seen a lot of people, they are actually charging a lot of counseling advice, parenting advice. So I make sure that this platform would have an open source leg, and we will always be helping our community, parents, everybody. And I want to make it a global platform, and I want that parents need more guidance, counseling than the children, because if one parent would be unschooled, automatically the kids would be unschooled, inshallah. So this is what I want you, that you should go to our Project Unschooling community. You can actually reach that through projectunschooling.com, and there is a community tab. Just go in there. It's a private group. I've created a private group so that we would be talking about different things, because see, our objective is that whatever we have learned so far, and whatever journey we are taking towards the end goal, inshallah, we'll be documenting that, so that other people, other parents can be empowered and inspired, and this is something which is coming from an example. And I want to highlight a little bit that why I'm speaking, because I'm speaking, and why I'm excited. I'm excited because I've set some KPIs. My child at 6 years old, he was talking to someone, a school in Scotland, a Stowe primary school, the school which represented in COP26 in the conference and this school is actually a sustainability school. And he was talking as a Muslim from Malaysia. He was talking to the primary kids and answering all their questions on Zoom call at 6 years old. And that gave me a hope that if my child can do, every child can do that. So we need to actually come up with that activism mindset in order to create a global influencer or a global leader. We need to actually tap on the global problems and come up with the solutions. Like Greta Thunberg, everybody talks about her, but the point is, why nobody is coming from the Muslim countries? No, I don't see any. I don't know why. Maybe our agenda is not that big. We need to actually work on our agenda. We need to become a global driver. Our coming generation, maybe in 100 years, maybe in 200 years. But the first step needs to be taken by you today. So this is what I would say, that we'll be documenting all that, inshallah, and we also trying to create different communities, local communities, where they can physically interact, like in Pakistan or wherever we will get the chance, we will do that. Currently, I'm stationed in Malaysia, so we are actually doing regular sessions with other parents, and we'll be sharing those stories as well, so that you could get the ideas, and then you can implement in your regions as well, for the betterment of your kids. And now I would say that in the future, I'll be talking about the key principles and practices, that what are the major things we need to ponder upon. So this is something which we'll be talking about in the next webinar, inshallah. And that's it. I think I've spoken a lot. I've taken much of your time. Only 10 minutes left. I'm really sorry. I'm very talkative, looks like. So it's open to the floor. If anyone wants to say something, please open your mic, and maybe you can share your experience or whatever you want to say. Please, I would appreciate that. Hello, yeah, Rizwan bhai, you want to say something?
Yeah, just a question for everyone. Most of the time, parents send their kids to schools because they are like, they don't want to go through that extra effort into teaching the kids or schooling them or teaching them, and they delegate that responsibility to someone else. So how do we really convince them, to take that extra step and put that effort into getting people into working hard for the kids?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
You're doing the right thing, right? Like you are doing this very nice. How do we go into people who are maybe not into they don't go on social media, they don't have that awareness? How do we go to those guys and convince them to hey, you know what, there's a different approach?
Yeah, absolutely. See, the point is that unschooling is not for everyone. Like I've mentioned, that there is a process, and then it's really, really hard to convince someone. So you can imagine that a person who is 40, 50 years old as a parent, how would you actually convince them? Because they've been to that environment for a long, long time, and it needs counseling, obviously, in the end of the day, or a revolutionary experience, or a community. If I give you my example, my eldest child, he was going to school earlier on, 3 years ago, he was in the school, and we were like any other normal parent who was sending their kids to school. And we transformed, because we thought that the things needs to be changed. So the point, what I'm trying to say is, it's not for everybody, but we can try. Our objective is to try, and we will be trying, inshallah. But again, in the end of the day, we can spread the message, and you cannot change people in the end of the day, Rizwan bhai. This is really important, and we can set examples. If someone's child is so much influential, or he's going to a platform like UN or somebody, obviously a conscious parent would come to the parent of that guy and must be asking, what did you do differently? What, so this is something, I think setting an example is really important. And I mean, it's really a very personal experience. I don't know how to convince the people. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand. Like, I think setting up examples would be very good. I think goes back to the community thing. You bring success stories from the community, showcase that in front of other people. Maybe then people would be convinced to go this route.
Yeah, you're very right, Sumera. Yeah, you're right that people are willing, but they don't want to compromise. That's why we come up with this project, Unschooling, that we need to actually change the perspective. This platform is not for kids, actually. This is for parents, and that's why we want to actually invite a lot of parents to come and talk to us, and see what we are doing. And maybe if we would have that type of community, we will be changing people at the end of the day, inshallah. And we can try in the end of the day, and the results are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot actually force people. So hope for the best, inshallah. Yeah. So Dr. Bilu, can you do you want to say something?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
My own perspective is a bit different because I appreciate all what you have said, but I want to look at it in the early days of the Muslims.
Yeah.
How are things done? There was no formal school, but they learn. So I want to look at it in that direction. What you have said is right, or what you have said, because these are things I practice, but I don't have any name for it. There are things we do at home that I give a little percentage of our time to schooling because it has helped me. That was the way I was brought up. 70% of my time, we do a lot of things at home that has really built my brain and the way I do things. And in fact, even in the office, I'm different. People look at me in a different way, and it's from my upbringing. Our parents, they didn't target, but we are part of everything in the house, and we are always given the open hand or the freedom to take some decision or to do some things on our own. So what you have said, I now look at it. If we marry it with the traditional Islamic way of learning, what we have learned in Syria, how the Sahaba, how the Prophet used to teach them, how this thing. We may not target school, but it's a learning forum as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Yeah, Sumera, you want to say something?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum assalam. Yeah.
Basically, yeah, I want to say that basically parents are willing. A lot of parents are willing, as I am also connected one of the homeschooling community, and we are working a lot of things, including the teachers training, which we are willing to give to the parents, especially moms, because unfortunately, moms, ladies are exploiting their me time. Like on the name of me time, they are having the social activities and compromise their children brought up and these kind of things. And specifically, mental health is very much important. We are working a lot of work on that to get to spread awareness towards the parents that they have to take care of their mental health specifically. Unless they would love themselves, they would care themselves, they would be like you can say they would be activated and they would be charged towards their kids' tarbiyah, and they would get more patience, more like you can say more gratitude towards their kids' tarbiyah. So these kind of things are very much important to spread towards the parents. And yes, parents are willing to get the education, but they are not having any platform or something like that. So yes, I'm also working about that. I think counseling is much important, especially parenting. Tarbiyah sessions are very important towards mother and father both, because mother and father both have the same responsibility towards the amana of Allah. And unfortunately, fathers are used to think that they get earned and they support their family. So this is it. But both the parents have their similar equal responsibilities, and they are equally answerable towards Allah. Thank you.
Absolutely, you are spot on. Actually, yeah, you're right. But again, see, my perspective is always I'm a very stubborn optimist, and I would always see that the glass is filled till up to what level. I mean, because the fringe, if you would see, I mean, like we talk about the worst conditions of, for example, the economy or everything or poverty, but we forget about the wellness or the positive sides. So I always believe that if we actually change our perspective, like I know a lot of parents, they would have a lot of issues, but there are many parents who has the potential to become an unschooler parent, So the target should be those people. And ultimately, in the end of the day, this movement will have an impact, inshallah, but because it is driven from example. Once we have a set example, people will follow, inshallah, So thank you very much for your perspective, Sumera and Dr. Bilu and Rizwan Bhai. Thank you so much for joining. It was really a productive session, and we'll be connected, inshallah. And I'll really appreciate that if you would have any ideas that how we can move forward. If you have more people around you, you want to conduct more sessions, I'm happy to be part of those sessions. Like, I mean, because we want to create this impact, inshallah, for the betterment of Ummah, for the betterment of our coming generation in the end of the day. Inshallah. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And I really appreciate that you have joined the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah. Wa alaikum assalam.